To begin the install, you'll need to cut out the subfloor to recess the drain. To do this, you take out the bolt-in portion of the drain. Then set the drain base over the drain pipe, center it up over the pipe, and mark around the drain base. Put the bolt-in portion back in the drain base and tighten the bolts. Next, drill a pilot hole for the saw blade to start in. Then, cut the subfloor around the line. After the hole is cut, mark the drain pipe at the floor level. The pipe should be cut 1 7/8 to 2 inches below the floor level. After the pipe is cut, install the base of the drain with the factory recommended adhesive. The tabs on the drain should fit down flush on the floor. Put a screw in each tab to secure the drain. Next, test fit the pan to make sure everything lines up and fits correctly. Mark the open edge of the pan so you have a reference point for applying your thin set. Remove the pan. You are now ready to apply thin set to set the pan in place. A 3/8 or 1/2 inch notch trowel should be used to spread the thin set. 3/8 inch if the floor is level. 1/2 inch if the floor is not level. Smaller than a 3/8 inch notch trowel should not be used. Thin set should be applied to within 1/2 inch or less from the walls and drain, and all the way to the curb edge. The pan must make contact with the thin set on the entire bottom of the pan. This is what gives it its strength. Once the thin set is spread, apply a liberal amount of 100% silicone or polyurethane caulk around the top edge of the drain base. Next, apply a large bead around the groove around the drain hole in the bottom of the pan. You are now ready to set the pan in place. To make it easier to get some larger pans in place, 3/4 by 3/4 or 1 1/2 by 1 1/2 strips of wood can be laid on the floor with no thin set under them. Get the pan lined up, then pull the strips out. The gaps left in the thin set are not large enough to matter. Push the pan to the back wall and center up between the other walls, making sure the drain lines up with the opening in the pan. Wiggle the pan back and forth a little, putting downward pressure to ensure the thin set spreads out evenly under the pan. Next, check the pan to make sure it's level. If the pan is out of level, put downward pressure on the high side and wiggle it a little more. That should do the trick. Next, you want to install the adjustable portion of the drain by putting a liberal portion of 100% silicone or polyurethane caulk around the drain opening in the pan. Then, take the drain grate off the tail pieces of the drain to expose the tabs that the screws go into. With your fingers, use these to tighten the adjustable portion into place. As the drain is turned, it spreads the caulk to form about 1 1/2 inch of sill. Tighten down below the drain channels and then wipe away any excess caulking. When this is done, reinstall the drain grate. To install the backer board, You first apply a liberal bead of caulk, polyurethane or 100% silicone, to the top of the splash wall, so the backer board can set down into the caulk. This will help to ensure a good sill. Then, install your backer board to manufacturer's recommendation. After the backer board is in place, clean excess caulking from the joint and proceed with your normal methods of waterproofing all joints and walls. We recommend a crack isolation or waterproofing membrane at all joints. Now you're ready to begin laying tile. The first thing is to cut the removable plate to the size that matches your tile. This can be done with your tile saw. Lay your tile on the removable plate first. Then, clean the excess thinset from the edges. Rapid set thinset or epoxy should be used on all of the floor area. Next, lay the plate in place with the tile installed on it, and center up in the recessed area of the pan, making sure it's square with the shower floor. Now, lay the floor tile as you normally would, making sure to keep the joint between the drain cover and the floor tiles all the same. This is where the water drains. Once the thinset is dry, you can remove the drain cover and begin to grout. It's recommended to use an epoxy grout. First, grout the drain cover. If the tile is hanging over the edges, be sure to grout under those edges at a slope back toward the PVC plate. Next, grout the floor. When you get to the edge where the drain cover sits, the floor tiles will most likely be hanging over from 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, so grout under these edges, keeping the grout as vertical as possible. If the grout is sloped in towards the drain, it will affect the water flow. As the grout starts to set, it can be shaped or smoothed a little more with a putty knife. This grout sticks to the tile and to the pan to give support under the overhanging tile. When finished, clean all the grout from the drain channels and flat surfaces. To make it easier to remove the drain plate for the first time, strings, duct tape, or thin strapping should be placed under the plate in the channels so they can be used to pick up the plate. To install the drain cover, you'll notice there are 3 indentions in the bottom of the plate. These work as index tabs, so that when the cover is removed, it will only go back in the same location, keeping the drain channel looking even and lined up with the grout joints. You will first fill the indentions with thinset, then place thinset on the 4 flat surfaces in the drain area. You want to put enough thinset to cover well and get the drain cover up to the right height, but you don't want it to squish out into the drain channels. When the drain cover is put into place, the thinset in the indentions and the thinset on the floor become one. Press the drain cover down to match the other tiles, or maybe leave it just a little bit higher. Then center it up so all the gaps around the cover are even. After it is cured for about 24 hours, the drain cover can be removed. It will only go back in the same location because of the index point every time. The drain cover should be removed and cleaned when your shower is cleaned. Here's a tip to make it easier. The bottom of the PVC plate has been coated with a release agent, but it doesn't hurt to put some spray lubricant on the bottom before filling the index holes and putting into place.